he's sitting there like, I'm a bad person. Yeah, baby, you are a bad person. Hello?
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the QQK Drama Podcast. Today we're recapping Love Island Games Season 2, Week 3, Part 1. I'm here with my co-host, MC. How are you doing, MC?
Hey, I am doing good. I feel like we're really coming close to the finale.
Let's start by talking about Johnny and his journey. On Sunday, Johnny had just betrayed Andreina, and we were dealing with the fallout. We're also dealing with the ensuing conversations from this terrible betrayal.
Andreina and Gabi are vulnerable. When he tried to make the sandwich for her the next morning, which was a bold thing to do, and then she was like, "Give me the skimpiest bikini you have, and I'm gonna go
Yes.
make down pancakes." I was like, she was like, she knew what she wanted her day to look like.
I loved that even Tyreek was like, "That's a nice bikini." I'm so happy they showed how Johnny even gave her the sandwich because he didn't even look her in the eye. He didn't even say, I made this for you. He said, "Well, I made this for you. I don't know if you want it." And then walked past her and then went up to Gabby and was like, "Is this good? Is this the kind of breakfast you want?" So it's like, if you're gonna do all that, you might as well have not made her breakfast at all. Like, what was the point of like a passive aggressive breakfast?
Um, and I love how she brought the sandwich down and just put it on the counter. Like, didn't even like she
Yes.
purposely did that. And it was wild because Johnny still after she was found out she was gonna be playing, and Johnny's like, hey, maybe this is an opportunity to really show yourself, you know? And it's like the like gall that this guy has to try to hype her up after he put her in this position and being like, hey, this is maybe your opportunity to prove that you can hold your own and maybe I can be in a couple with you here. You know,
Oh,
what's wild is that based on that conversation, I feel like he has a somewhat of an interest in her. Like, I don't know if it's genuine. I don't think it's genuine, but like
yeah.
I think that he the excuses he gave her were like was he doesn't want to compete with her, but he was saying you're not interesting, you don't stimulate me, but still was kind of like, hey, maybe if you win, like almost like you could be back with me. And but like even but when he says like if it's F me, and then she's like it's F you.
Yeah.
And I was like, good for you because you did, I'm glad you're saying that. But it was wild how he was basically saying like, hey, if you're still in it and you're still interested in me, like it could be a benefit. And I'm like, you are a wild man. You're a
I
wild man.
He could have just said, "Yes, I don't want to be partnered with you. You're not a strong competitor and I don't think there's a spark." But you're totally right that he was telling everybody else, "Oh, there's no spark," while admitting to other people it's really about the gameplay. And so I'm like, of course, Johnny's still being deceptive because Johnny comes into the bedroom, Garby and Lucinda are sitting down, and he goes, "So am I still the bad guy?" Which is already annoying. And then Garby says, "Well, this is really surprising." And of course, Lucinda's like, "Was there just no spark? Is that what's going on here? Let me help you out." And he goes, "Yeah, there's no spark. Then why are you telling Andrina, like, oh, I still like you? Why are you
Yeah.
telling her that?" And then, of course, when she gets eliminated, why are you saying, like, "Oh, well, who knows what's going to happen in the real world if the issue was just that there's no spark? What's there to explore?"
Yeah.
Oh, he's the worst. And I agree. I don't think he has a genuine interest in her. I think on some level, though, he recognizes her value. I think he understands, of course, she's physically beautiful, but also that she is actually, like a kind person, and she's funny and she's fun. So I think in his mind, he's like, I know she actually probably would be a great partner for me, but
Yeah.
I'm not mature enough to be in a relationship with her. So how do I keep her around somehow without
Yeah.
having to actually be in a relationship with her?
Yeah. How do
Ugh.
I string her along even though on like national television I put her in a position to be kicked off of this show? Um it's kind of like and
Yeah.
you know what's wild? He is bold enough to believe he can do that.
Yeah.
And it's just like no, like and maybe he has pulled it up, I'm sure, but like I'm like it's still wild. It's still wild that he does that and I feel like he's happy with his position with Gabby.
I mean, he made
Gabby?
that clear to
Yeah.
us. He let us know that he does not regret his decision.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
He's like once it was like, "Oh, I'm a fitness coach." I forget, right word or whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like, "Okay, yes, I made the right decision." Like that's exactly what
Mm-hmm.
he thought. So, it's
Yeah.
And I feel like, I mean, from that, it got kicked out. I feel like he had no remorse personally. I don't think he really thought too much of it. And he obviously, I forget the reason why he became captain. I don't know if it was just because, the new people come in. That's why he was captain of the group.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
and seeing him in that position to pick people to pick, he really, it set him up as the person to beat. He has been the
Yeah.
person to beat, but I don't know if with the jury or with the people voting and stuff like that for that'll take happen. But
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he is really in this like evil power position. Um and uh and it's wild to see how I just feel like he's really cocky. He's on his high horse right now, you know?
I feel like I just want to say big ups to Andreina. I feel like she went out really strong. She didn't win, but I think she went out in a great way. I thought she held her own with Johnny. It's helping me feel like she's maybe this opened her eyes and she's gonna be on a different path in life.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that like she was under Johnny's spell. And I think that she also was thinking it was more of Love Island versus Love Island Games in that time. He was like, "Oh, Johnny's my superhero," which he told her. Um, and uh, and Johnny's going to lead me to what I need to do in this game. And
Yeah.
so for her to come, I feel like that last episode on Sunday was like her opportunity to show her own and who she is. And I feel like I more
Mm-hmm.
of her personality in that episode than I'd gotten
Yeah.
before. Um,
Same.
and I'm happy to see that. And I think she definitely ended on, even though it was as a result of a lot of pain, and I wish she didn't have to go through all that. I think it was the result was her really being able to show herself. Um, and I think it was impressive, and I'm glad that she had that opportunity because I think before that, Johnny made her believe that she was not contributing anything.
Yeah.
And I
True.
think that I hope she knows that she competed against one of the top girls,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like toe for toe, and
Mm-hmm.
came back 2-0, which is like an impressive thing to come back to in any setting. So it was yeah, I'm proud of her,
Yeah.
in spite of Johnny.
Yes, yes. And then, Donnie's new victim is, being a bird brain, and that I watched her confessional where she admitted literally every person is telling me to stay away from Johnny and telling me not to trust him, but I'm going to decide for myself. Okay.
Literally flash to episode what 4 or 5 for Andreina being saying the same exact thing. Like literally. But I know Gabby's like, I'm in it for the
He's not
money.
that hot. I don't get it.
Yeah, I know she's like, I'm in it for the money. I'm not really like, and she says that, but I also am just like, hey, be like wary of her. I feel like if Johnny has an opportunity, because to this point, from my knowledge, Johnny
Mhm.
has only had one opportunity to. No, I think
Mm,
he did recouple with Andreina, I guess technically. Um, but he recoupled with Andreina. I feel like if he had his own opportunity, I think he would just couple up with Justine and move forward.
yeah.
I personally, I feel like he would want that, but I don't know if Justine will want that. But I don't know. He's playing the game. He's playing the game,
Yeah.
and I think whenever the Power Squad kind of jumping to like later, I assume that he was leading the charge with everything. Um, and
Yeah.
and I can't tell if Toby and Tyreek think that getting to the end with him in the way that they could beat him because of like people won't like him, or
Mm,
because I'm like Tyreek is pretty. I think from the house perspective, some people like Tyreek. I think a lot of people don't like Tyreek, but I wonder if it's like but I am wondering if it's one of those cases where like, but is next to Johnny, is Tyreek more likable? You know?
mm,
I think Toby out of the three, I think I mentioned, is the most. Toby
yeah.
is setting himself up. If he has an opportunity, it's just a win, but he is most likable out of those three, and I think he would be the last targeted out of those three.
Yeah.
Um, but Tyreek's perspective, I'm like, that's the thing I'm like kind of confused about. I'm like, if you have to go against Johnny, I don't know if you're gonna win against. It depends. It depends, but I haven't really seen. I feel like I haven't seen. I know he came in like the top of the challenge with Toby, but I also felt like, um, I wasn't like necessarily impressed by it. I don't know. I don't know if I just wasn't impressed. I just was kind of like I just felt like you know what I mean? I just felt like it was a challenge. You filled it up. There was maybe
Yeah.
I don't know. There was some challenges that have happened where I'm like I'm impressed by how well you did. That wasn't one of the challenges in my head.
Because Toby's done this before, he's probably thinking, we'll take the three of us to the end, Toby, Tyreek, and Johnny, and then Johnny will be, voted out by the jury. But I
Mm,
think I'm worried that, the Love Island producers are like, okay, we got Johnny back. We can't, bring him back just to lose again. And I'm worried that they're going to, remove the jury or they're going to leave it to nonsense Americans to vote and hope that like people's dislike of Tyreek will not be offset by their love of Justine, and so Tyreek and Justine won't make it in via the vote. But I think Toby has a strategy, and I know what you mean. Like I know Tyreek was also a footballer, I think, but he just doesn't give athlete.
yeah, I know from day one, Josh has been itching to go into a duel with
Oh
Tyreek.
right,
I just don't. I feel like if Tyreek's in a duel with anyone, I just don't see him winning per se. Not because of the build or anything.
yeah.
I just feel
Oh
like I know he
gosh.
talks about strategy, but I just don't. And again, maybe I'm missing it because I know he came in second in the first one, and that was because of Josh helping him a lot. But I'm missing the strategy for what he sees his end game being. We're all thinking that. I think Johnny is. I think Justine is. I think they have the experience. I think Gabby a little bit is probably thinking that. She was on the challenge too. Um,
Hmm.
I guess we could talk about Tyreek and Justine and a little bit if you want, because that was like I didn't see them coming back together the
Oh my
same night.
God. Oh
I
Lord.
was like, oh wow, that's wild. That's
I
wild.
know. I'm hoping Justine was lying when she told Tyreek that she likes him. I was watching and I was like, is this the Handmaid's Tale? What's going on here? I don't want what is on my TV?
Yeah.
Justine.
I think Justine is a little insulated from that, hence why I thought the obvious two to go in for the power squad to choose was Gabi and Justine.
Oh,
And the
oh, yes, yes, yes.
and the fact that Justine didn't get picked even after all of that was kind of like, oh, like I feel like that would have been his chance to doubly screw over Justine. And clearly from Toby and Johnny's relationship and Tyreek, I'm like the fact that Justine wasn't picked because I'm kind of like if I'm Lucinda, Gabby, or Andrea, like I would have been like put Justine in. So the fact that they didn't put Justine in was kind of like, oh yeah, they had the power and the decision making in that room. But I was like, Justine was a little like had like was a little insulated. So I thought that like I think it's good for strategy wise for her, and I'm sure she sees that being like there's this power three. If I'm linked a little bit, even though it's kind of like I'm coming back with my like tail between my legs, I don't think she might be interested in him. I don't think she's like, I'm being played by him. I think she's like, I know strategically it's beneficial to be in this three. Which again is
Yeah.
hard. It's just hard to be like, come on. He like really just did this you know? I hope if she won the money and said no to Tyreek, I think, oh no, not giving the money. I think that's like such a just
Amazing.
desserts, but who knows if
Oh,
we'll go
it would
there.
be
So
amazing. Yeah, I think I agree. It was smarter of Justine to say, okay, this guy's terrible, but let me try and just, appease him. And I think the reason he didn't screw her over again is because he probably does feel like, okay, I taught her a lesson.
yeah.
But also, of course, Andrea, Lucinda, and Gabby didn't. They're still in precursor to the Handmaid's Tale where they're like, no, the men should make the decision. Because I agree. I was surprised. We barely heard anything from them. The only
Yeah.
we slightly heard Andrea of all people should have been fighting a lot harder for Josh because he's such a strong competitor and is her teammate. And I was shocked that she was just like, well, I guess I'm outvoted. And like, you don't realize if he goes home, who do you have left? Casey? Tyreek's not gonna leave Justine. Toby's not all that interested in you. Johnny's not gonna leave Gabby. And I was like, Andrea.
I think that what made it hard, obviously, with them, if they were randomly selected into groups, I think it would be different. Obviously, with the four guys, I feel like the dynamic of then Gabby feeling the closest to Johnny, where like if they
Yes.
were doing a democratic vote, and that's how they moved forward. But
Yeah.
I know that's one of those things, that's one of those situations where you've got to like strong on people. You got to be like, hey, I'm not leaving this room if Josh is being picked. Like
Yeah.
that is not happening. That's not like I just feel like I understand that either if it was 6-1, but I kind of see like going into that conversation where you really kind of like focus in on Isaiah and Lucinda being like, hey, we've worked with you. Josh and I worked with you too. Please stand on my side. But if Isaiah's like, I'm gonna lean to the guys, then that's a wild decision. Obviously Isaiah's like put, maybe
Isaiah doesn't
Isaiah
know
wanted
what it
yeah,
even is.
he's being played. He's probably the most being played by any of the guys, but I'm sure that I would hope that's more of a conversation, but I feel like if you're not thinking deeply about the strategy of it, then,
Yeah.
or if you're not seeing like, after this conversation, I'm not saying everyone's Lucinda, and we'll talk about Lucinda, where she's just like,
Hmm.
I didn't realize the guys like were this saw each other in this way. Because I'm kind of like, I just feel like you stick and just say, let's get Casey out. No one in this room cares about Casey. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Lucinda talks about importance of Kendall, like it talks about like obviously it's like let's agree on getting Casey in. Like that's the focus of what we need to do. Because
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of ways and strategies you could have done, but I feel like they were going into it just letting them lead the conversation, which, um, just I think it'll set them up for failure. And they might have not been prepared with that conversation, how that went. Like to be fair, Johnny grabbed the guys first. Johnny was talking to the guys first, then they brought in, so he might have known what was probably going to happen and set it up. But so yeah, they definitely messed up. They definitely didn't handle that the right way, and I think there wasn't a world where Andrea Isaiah Isaiah and Lucinda should have left that conversation with both Josh and Kendall in. That was just a mistake on their
Yeah.
end.
From what we saw, it wasn't even,
Yeah,
heated.
yeah,
Tyreek was the only I think I will say I was surprised. I was surprised that Tyreek showed that much loyalty to Justine, but I do think it's probably more gameplay. But
yeah.
Tyreek was the only one who was like, no, absolutely not. And then everybody else was just like, oh.
Like that's the thing of like there's you look at it and be like there's a firm side of three, and then the other side doesn't even know what they're doing. Like genuinely,
Except
Kendall.
Kendall. That I understood why they wanted to get Kendall in because I think Kendall is their Johnny. Kendall is their like mastermind.
Yeah. Well, the
But
thing is, I don't even think Kendall was that like I like Kendall for how Kendall is. I don't think he was that strategically minded, but I
okay.
think he was connected. I think a lot of the women felt connected to him. Even Gabby coming in knew Kendall. So I felt like
Mm,
that was the thread of like all the women feel connected to Kendall. I'm sure
mm,
Johnny's like I would not be to vote against Kendall.
okay, yeah.
And that makes sense. But I just feel like, you know, they didn't know the amount of strategy they were against. So I don't know, it was a little disheartening to see because I was like, oh wow, the opposition against those three didn't really even put up a fight. Like unless the next episode Josh and Andrea are the top, then it's kind of like, okay, this is interesting. But I feel like it's almost like a steamroll,
Hmm.
which is never good TV, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we'll see. If something happens, something happens. But we'll see. I don't know. I feel like they really have a firm grasp of the game right now, those three, and I want to see them fight against each other. But I'm just curious what the end game looks like.
Yeah. I know you mentioned wanting to see Tyreek and Josh. I actually would love to see a Josh and Johnny duel.
Mm,
I would love to see that. And I
yeah,
feel like that's actually who I would want to be remaining at the end. And then I
yeah.
wouldn't feel conflicted over like, am I rooting for the Trump supporter? Am I rooting for the womanizer, manipulator? Who am I rooting for?
Who do I want to win?
Yeah.
Who would have thought in end of season 6 that we'd be rooting for Andrea for anything, you know what I mean? Not saying you're rooting for Andrea, because if you're rooting for Josh, and you're essentially rooting for Andrea. I want to rewind to Lucinda and Lucinda's journey the last 3 episodes and kind of
Okay.
like your
Yeah.
thoughts from Sunday to now.
Let me relax. We could start with Lucinda after watching Kendall get eliminated, turning to Garby and going, "How did this happen? I took a screenshot of it. Almost threw my phone. What do you mean? How did this happen?
Literally, literally. Like,
You allowed this." Then okay, yeah, I'm gonna start backwards from her turning to the guy's partner and being like, "How did this happen?" As if Garby was in the room and you weren't.
yeah,
And then hugging Kendall longer than Garby. From that to her snitching on Justine, who was trying. I feel for Justine. Justine is like trying to get the women together.
yeah.
And Lucinda immediately going to Isaiah to be like, Justine said that we should, stick together as women, but men have always had my back. I will say that maybe I will secretly like Casey because uh the reason he gave for choosing Lucinda to go solo in the Sweet Spot Challenge was unnecessarily blunt. He could have just said, and he chose Lucinda, but he's like, no, I want to know, I want to let you know. It's because he thought you would be the weakest competitor. I think that it was also wild that she said, stop picking on me. Yawn, this is so boring, and interesting insight into her brain of, oh, like, is this how she victimizes herself?
I mean, I feel like everything, even when she got safe, she was the victim. When she was like
Oh
in the power squad,
yeah.
she was a victim. She was kind of
Yeah.
like, I feel like that kept on coming up for her. So I definitely feel like that was her thing. Like, like I feel like Lucinda has brought some things to it. Well, like at the beginning of like the show, I feel like she wasn't have a lot of a focus on competition. Like her beating Andreina was like a wild moment. But I feel like as we've gotten further and further, I'm kind of like her treatment of Garby, her I just feel like she has is definitely like just so out of it and has been so harmful for the other side. As like she's just like she's so very self-centered, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm so there was something she said in the Sunday episode that I literally was like, that's unbelievable. That's when I texted you and I was like, wow, this woman, man. But I'm forgetting, I can't find where I wrote it down. But I think she is I want I want her out. That's how I feel.
Same. Same.
I want her out. Um, and I think it's just unbelievable that she didn't know the dynamics of the guys enough when she's been told by Justine, when she's been told by the spaces, and it's kind of like she realized the dynamic after it was announced. She even felt comfortable enough to give the kiss to Kendall or Josh, but who she gave the kiss to, because I was like, the fact that she gave the kiss, I'm like. I was like, oh, you feel like okay with this, like you feel fine about this happening, you know? And I would have never agreed to it, you know? If I didn't want these people to be in, I would have never agreed to do it. I don't know. I definitely have a sour taste, and I feel like she will be dragged a little bit to the end because of the relationship with Toby and maybe Gabby too and Tyreek. So, but I am not. She's not my cup of tea personally. She's not my cup of
Ugh.
tea. Um, she's
Tea.
been
She's tea that's been steeping for too long. I want her
yeah.
out too.
Yes, yes.
There.
100%. I, I I did wanna just so I don't forget. I know
Yeah.
there's not much to talk about with Marvin. Sadly, he didn't really get a
Oh.
big opportunity. I do appreciate Sydney kind of like saying, "Hey, Marvin, I wanted to save you, but this is why I did Tyreek." And it really when Marvin said um
Oh
to Johnny
yeah.
and was like, you are
Yeah.
the reason I'm not safe. And then Johnny's like, what are you talking about? And Johnny, and basically he was like, you could have kept Andreina safe. If us two were here, either Tyreek or I would have been chosen. And if Tyreek or I would have been chosen, Sydney would have chosen the other person. All three of us would have been safe. But you messed it up.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
was like, dang, you're right. Like you're right. You know, and I appreciated him calling him out in that way. And how self-centered he is. And I just want to say, I do feel like we talked about it in the last episode, I think, and we've seen a lot of there's a lot of love online for Nicola. And I think that there's a level of like vibes that she's just like kind of chilling. She even she got nominated, she's like, I'm in it. You know, it's kind of like, okay. Like that's all we see from her. I don't know if that's how she
Mm-hmm.
really is, but or if they're like portraying her this way. But they keep on trying to portray her as this like innocent, nice person in the house in the midst of all this gaming and scheming. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not lost on me. It's like one of the white women being portrayed as the nice person.
Mm-hmm.
But when Marvin got out and sitting there sad, and she goes over being like, "You have the biggest heart," I'm like, "Do not talk to me." I literally be like, "Don't talk to me." And the fact they show that, I was like, show Marvin kind of like taking it all in, processing it, but don't show someone trying to give a pep talk about how their heart is so big. I was like, that's not what I want to hear. And even if it was, I think it was a genuine place from Nicola, but her genuineness is not what people are receiving or wanting on the show typically. I think she's on
Mm-hmm.
saying like I don't know. I just feel like
It's because
her
so much of it is self-serving. Like
yes.
that wasn't for Marvin. That was for her to feel like, oh, I said something nice to him.
I think so. And I don't think she
And not in a
necessarily
malicious way, but just in like
yes.
a
I don't
Yeah.
she like it's similar to where she's like, okay, I need to talk to KK about
Yeah.
what happened, and KK's like, I want to talk, and she's like, that's the meanest thing I've ever been told in my life, and I'm like, okay, like
Nice life.
you wanted to say something so you can appease with the fact that this person's going home, you know,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I just hated it. I was like, I can't believe you're going up to this person and saying this. So, you know, in the end, it was interesting to see her like with Justine last episode and be like, I'm ready and getting ready. She was really into it, like seeing her competitive side build out was like I can say like that's cool, but she was didn't see herself as a competitive person and she was really competitive and she
Why does
was
she keep saying that?
I don't know well she at the beginning she was like I don't I don't really play a lot of games. I'm not I think very early in the
No,
episode
she
with
said no, she
Isaiah.
said it again. Like she said it a few times. Like,
Oh,
oh, I'm not a
I didn't know
competitive
that.
person. And then we keep seeing her be very competitive.
Yeah, I think at the beginning I thought it was kind of like a funny and cute thing to hear
Yes.
to be like, oh, I mean,
Yes.
like, oh, is that what competitive is? But I didn't know that she said it. I didn't realize she said it again. Yeah, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
okay, are we just bringing back the same clips from the for like? I don't want to hear the same thing. Like, I know this is who she is, but she is competitive now because she's into the game and she's sad when they lose. So like,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? So
Yeah.
I, you know, it was interesting to have her on the show, but I am glad Garby. You know, I'm sad that when she when the ball hit her head, I had an audible gasp because I was not expecting it. And I'm glad that she seems to be okay. But I am happy that Gabi won. I think Gabi
Uh-huh.
deserves to be in that villa, and I am glad that she's still there. So,
I have a hot take about Nicola. I feel like I will. Okay, when she did her whole like I eat the orange and I sit down, I was like,
oh
I
yeah,
don't know a ton of people from Malta or from Italy, but they don't all speak in this like cutesy sing song voice. And it's giving me a little bit of a Maya where it's the same kind of thing where when Amaya first came on, she was speaking in her normal voice. And then after she had that fight with Ace, all of a sudden everything was this like, and then, like it was this very like, I'm just an innocent young thing. And I admit at first I was like, oh, I love her. I do. I still like, well, I don't dislike her now, but I was like, oh, I loved her. And then I saw some videos of her like on Instagram and TikTok and was like, she's speaking totally differently in all of these clips than she's speaking on Love
interesting.
Island. And
Yeah,
my hot take is that when the EMTs were speaking to Nicola, I understand that she might have had a concussion, but still, her voice was very clear. She was not using her. She was not like, my name is Nicola. She was like, my name is Nicola. I am here. I want to continue to compete. And my hot take is
yeah.
like, this is your real voice.
I think that there's been a cadence where I forgot about that moment. I'm like, what is the need for this? You know, I think that like I think there are people who are amused by her and enjoy
Yeah.
her like casualness, but I think that it's like a unseriousness.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's like a persona. Like it's um and I feel like I've seen it more, and I just feel like whether it's the way that she's been edited or the way
Mm-hmm.
that they're trying to portray her,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm trying to understand. I'm not sure how much is it her or if it's
Mm,
the Love Island folks,
that's fair.
of doing that. Like obviously, maybe the whole conversation with Marvin was a deeper conversation that ended in that way. But the
Mm,
clip that they showed is that. Well, I'm like, if you
fair.
just went up and said that for 10 seconds and left, that's a wild thing to do. But if that was a full conversation that ended or began with that, cool. But so I'm
Yeah.
giving grace to like how it's edited,
Yeah.
but in what we see, I'm kind of like, I just feel like that's just not the like that's not the
Mm,
energy that I really necessarily care for, you know? Like
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Wasn't a
You know
fan of
what?
her.
So yeah, I'll amend my statement. I'll say the Nicola we've been portrayed. I do not believe the Nicola who has been portrayed to us on TV is the authentic Nicola. Because you're right. It could be producers having that same mentality of like people like women who don't seem to know what's going on and who are very non-threatening.
Yeah.
So let's amp up every moment where she seems like she has no idea what's going on and she's just like what do they call? They call it a Pollyanna. I think that's like the trope. So
Yes.
yeah, it might. I will
Yes.
say the all of these people. It's all the person who's been portrayed on TV. Obviously, we don't know any of them, so who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
I will say, this is and yeah, we're hopping around, but it's fine. I will say these two challenges, the one with the bells and then the sweet spot were actually my favorite challenges so far. I thought
Oh.
the one with the bells was my favorite. I feel like the bells added I don't know, some like drama
Yeah.
to to the challenge and getting to hear them, and I feel like it made it more of a fair fight. I didn't like how it seemed like so many of the challenges were just like physical strength when you know there's so many there's so many qualities to have, and I like that with the bells there was at least some strategy. It wasn't purely just like who was the physically like strongest. And then with
Yeah.
the sweet spot, I also liked. Well, okay, I was trying to figure out that challenge. I couldn't figure out whether people even could use a strategy because it seemed that they could only see one canister at a time. So some
Yeah.
of it just felt like luck, which didn't feel like strategy. Like, yeah, I was, it was unclear. Like, do they know that they're that the canisters will be bigger, or is it just like here's the first one you saw, like fill it up?
Yeah. I don't know. I think because I don't know if there was strategy. There might have been strategy to like to getting certain ones first because I think when you put the jam in and put sprinkles in, does that stick together? Because that might be helpful, but I wasn't really sure that. But it was an interesting challenge. I thought it was interesting to go up and above. I do want to just note that I did like the bell challenge, and specifically when Kendall like put the bell on the right side, like was sticking his arm out to like lure
Oh
Marvin over.
yeah,
That was really interesting to
yeah.
be like, oh wow, you really thinking this through. And so yeah, I like that a lot. Uh, I do want to, so I do have bone to pick about the sweet spot challenge.
Ooh, okay, yes, yes.
And I don't know if you've been on like deep Reddit or other things, but they're talking about like balloon gate or this balloon
Oh,
thing. And
well, I feel like
so
Justine was alluding to that when she was like, Josh and I were really last.
yeah, so because a lot of people were saying that the yellow balloon was blowing up bigger than the pink balloon, and then there was at
Oh.
least I think two or three of them, Sydney and Lucinda at the end, I think Johnny, Gabby, and Josh and not not Josh and the first pair that went against Johnny and
Oh,
I think
Kendall and Garby.
yeah I think at the beginning they all said how they all got to the end quicker, but didn't
Yeah.
pop. And so I was reading, and someone was sharing. I don't know the truth behind it, but they were saying that sometimes the certain dye that's in balloons makes it a little tougher to pop, and apparently yellow is one of those colors. So that's why you people having pictures of when the pink one popped and how much smaller it was to the yellow one, and how technically it isn't like fair that the people put yellow because it took more to blow up the yellow one and more to pop the yellow one. So I don't know the deep. I have seen
Oh.
a couple things about it, but I think that was if that's true, and I do have seen a couple of things about that. I feel like that's like that's a huge flaw. That's a huge flaw and a concern because I think the pink
Yes.
team. I felt like the first time when Garby and Kendall got there, and I was like, oh, they didn't get it first. They got there first, but didn't blow it up first. Like that's wild. But the fact that it happened, I think one other time for sure with Sydney and
Yeah.
Lucinda, but another, I think two other times, I was kind of like, this seems like too, like this shouldn't be happening as much as it is. So.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's something I saw and I've been seeing on Reddit. Worth looking into if anyone else wants to see it. But I think apparently there's a whole thing about balloons and which ones
Oh.
pop bigger or smaller, and so that was the one thing. I did like the challenge as a whole. There's a few different parts of it, but I think that part I was like, oh, that has a big effect. And it did. It clearly did, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was interesting to me.
Oh, okay. That is interesting.
Yeah.
I noticed that too. I noticed that for sure with Kendall and Garby and Justine and Josh. Oh, interesting that it could have just been the die.
Yeah.
But yeah, I noticed that because they lingered on them so long. I was like, this is taking kind of a long time, and they're really like pressing on it.
Yeah. Like especially
Hmm.
these two who were very good and very strong.
Yeah.
So I did agree that like I'm trying to think of Fairway when there was seven people, but I just didn't I agree that I didn't like that. I just didn't feel like it was fair to have the two guys running together.
Yeah.
But that's how it worked out. That's how I feel like whether it was the picking thing, like I felt like there was another way to approach that. But I don't know. I don't know if there was another answer, but I just felt like that
Well, they could have
was
just divided them. They could have made it so that instead of having two solos, like instead of,
yes,
yeah, like they could have just made them be in pairs with people, and then maybe the
yes,
larger group
yes,
is just smaller.
yes, exactly. So yeah, there was a better way. So it was just that was I was not. And I felt like I was like, this seems unfair. And then they obviously won. And there's a couple reasons why, but that was like, dang, hard to see. Um,
Yeah.
but uh, but but I was gonna say after that though, whenever the Power Squad got found out and they had to do the kiss of death, it was just I was like, I appreciate that twist. I appreciate that like
Yeah.
addition. Exactly, exactly. I like that. That was fun. Um, what I would have liked personally was
Mm.
like, okay, I don't know if y'all decided, but it's more like talk about it. Whoever you all want to do it. And what I would have liked is if Andrea went to Casey and gave him a kiss.
Oh,
You
Andrea
know,
and Casey. Why?
no, no, I'm just saying like as in whoever gets kissed first is the target. Where obviously
Oh,
I know that they're not trying to play like that, but
that could
more,
be. Ooh,
you know what I
that would have
mean?
been really good.
Be like if someone thought about
Oh,
it that way, being like, oh, let me get this off first, so that way it works first. But I don't know if that's. I don't think they'd choose and then go and do it. But I still feel like that would have been an interesting way to do, because otherwise, majority rules. But if it's like, hey, the squad, you have to decide on it. But it would have been an interesting twist to be like, who can get it off first, kind of thing.
oh my
Because they might have
gosh.
splinted out and tried to get, you know what I mean? Uh, but either way, so
Ooh,
yeah,
that's MC. That's really good. That would have been really great, especially if there's like a splintered group, then the group itself is fighting.
yeah,
Ooh, yeah, that would have been
yeah,
good.
yeah, true. And I did like though whenever they were plotting, like them coming together and plotting that it was
Yeah,
entertaining. It was cool to
yeah.
see like Power Squad. They were excited about it, obviously. But I loved there's not much we get from Sydney, which is not bad. I think Sydney is like fine, she's there, but her saying like Johnny's gonna be on Love Island season 80 was pretty iconic. That was a good
Chef's
moment.
kiss.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, and everyone feels
yes.
that way. So,
It was good
um,
levity too. Of like, you know what? Yeah, he's winning, but whatever. This guy's gonna be here until until he can't.
yeah, yeah. Truly, truly. He will be coming back. So every woman who ever goes, please know that you are the next victim um
God.
of this man.
At this
Um
point, we'll be able to just have a Love Island Games Johnny edition, where it's just
yeah,
like all
like
the women who've ever
yeah,
been his
literally,
victims.
literally,
It's like a whole
literally.
cast.
Um
I just want to say, I thought it was very funny when I was looking at it. I was like, this is interesting that Isaiah is like, I'm trying to bridge the two worlds. And Josh is like, sing with your own.
yeah, I was like,
Isaiah's
what are you
like,
doing?
Isaiah's literally said, I'm a mediator. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
sorry. That's what I would say about
And
Isaiah.
I mean, I think it's worth noting, even though he's like, I'm a mediator in the middle, like, don't forget my guy, you were the last, I think he was the last guy picked, you
It's
know?
like, that's why I was
So
laughing that he called himself a mediator. Like,
yeah, yeah, he calls himself the
he calls
mediator,
himself one, but nobody
and
else is calling him that.
it's like you were last picked. I understand you were trying to do damage control, and I don't blame him doing damage control. I think Tyreek, Toby, and Johnny don't want to do damage control, so they were upset at him doing it. Like
Yeah, that was weird.
I think they were just trying to be like one top. Why are you trying to do that? Just like let it be. And like I don't agree with
That was
that.
weird. Yeah, that was
And I
weird.
think that but Isaiah like sways. Isaiah is what they call like a floater in like a lot of these games. For folks who
Yeah.
listen to Big Brother, other things. But
Oh.
he's very much like kind of like who has power, who has agency. Let me kind of jump to that. Granted, and he got picked. Don't get me wrong, he got picked to that side.
Mhm.
But how he did damage control. So if Kendall or Josh win anything, they probably won't put Isaiah up.
Ah,
But he
okay.
goes back to those three. He's like, "Why are you doing that?" He's like, "Oh, I guess you're right." And he is agreeable to those three. The issue is when he's put on the spot when Josh is like, "Hey, you're on the bottom of this," you realize, and they're like, ignore it, like ignore what he's saying." Like Josh is just sad he's on the bottom, to Isaiah,
Mm.
and the public situation where he's trying to like be agreeable to both people is the hard part. So it's a really hard thing to play. I don't know. I don't think in this it will get him that far, but that's what's happened. He's playing both sides. He doesn't
Mm.
really know. He sees as a mediator, but it's like he's just trying to make sure everyone sees him as a good
Oh.
playing okay, and I don't because right now at this point no one would put him up. You know what I mean? And that's the sweet spot, but I don't know if that will make him go very far because I think soon that three isn't going unless Tyreek, Toby, and Johnny cannibalize themselves. I don't think that. I think he'll just be the next target. So
Oh.
we'll see.
That's
So
so interesting. Okay, see, you're giving him more credit than I was giving him. I didn't think that the floating was that he was actually using a strategy. I think I did think of it as he's like, that's my boy, blah blah blah.
don't get me wrong. I don't think he knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? I want to be very clear. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just trying to be agreeable with everyone, and that
Okay.
strategy is this. But I don't know if he knows that. Like you know what I mean? So I think like just his natural thing is like let me try to be in the middle. Let me try to make sure everyone's okay with me. And that is a strategy that can work. But if he doesn't know it, then he can. It's a very dangerous place to be, and I think he will find himself in a duel very soon. So like it's working, but yeah, don't. He's not like this meta strategy person. He's like he's just somebody being like, hey, like his words, not mine. Hey, dog, we cool? And he'll like say that to every single person. You know what I mean like, and that's Zay.
Okay, okay. I mean, if he plays it right, I just don't. We haven't seen Casey compete, and Casey, like, well, actually, yeah. What is your take on Casey, really fast? Because I know he chose to be there, but he just seems so like lackadaisical about everything. And even him asking Gabby, like, oh, who would you eliminate? She's like, you, obviously. And he was like, oh. But I'm like, I don't think she was joking. And I don't know. I don't really get like the fire from him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think my natural inclination to that question is who is he? You know, I don't think he's giving anything. I think obviously he won Love Island All Stars too, so I think they were like, oh, this is exciting, and but I don't think it's giving much, and I don't know if it'll continue to give anything. So I'm not getting much from him,
Okay.
unless he impresses me. But I feel like he's just kind of like, I feel like he's like wide-eyed, trying to be funny, and doesn't have much else going for him. So
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Because
I
I
feel.
was thinking Josh doesn't have a strong like if Casey is a competitor, then I was thinking, okay, Josh could actually have a strong alliance. And then to your point earlier, we could have a really interesting battle between the two sides. But right now, the read I'm getting on Casey is like
Yeah. I I feel like if Casey or even Isaiah won power, they would not know what to do with it.
mm,
I feel like the other three may convince them to put Josh in.
oh my
Against
gosh.
maybe one of them, or somebody else. Like I don't that's why I'm like I don't know. The only Josh winning is the only way that Johnny, Tyreek, probably those two would be in danger, personally. But I that's how I see it. Based on the alliances, based on um everything else, I think that's the
Mhm.
only world that would take place. So but who knows? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see in the next few episodes, what would they
Okay.
end up being. But I guess we haven't spoken about Kendall. I guess
Oh,
Gabi. We talked about Gabi a tiny bit, but Gabi thriving, winning two challenges. I think Gabi's arc, like
yeah.
she's been through it, and I think she's been really good and strong. I think she's a really capable. I don't know where she's ending up now with Kendall being on.
Casey
Yeah,
is
that's
her
my
partner
like. I
now.
was like with Casey. I was like, this is rough. I think I would have. I don't know what it looked like last year. I think I would have enjoyed more couple duels. Um,
Mm,
the single duels are interesting. Don't get me wrong. I think the couple duels because I'm like, where's Garby's story go from here? I think
hmm
she's won. But I'm like, but the thing is, like, she can't. Her story doesn't include anyone else. So to be like, oh, she goes on to win with Casey. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of like, like that's why I'm kind of like
Yeah.
question mark. So that's the one thing I'm like, some of these people when they're gone, obviously, like. Andreina leaving, Marvin leaving, like they didn't necessarily have somebody in that because Johnny screwed Andreina over. But even Nicola leaving, she was with Casey, but it wasn't like that. But I think
Yeah.
Kendall felt like it was the first person to be like, wow, they're like one relationship that kind of seemed like they were really into each other. Even though there was debate based on last set of episodes. I was kind of like, oh, well, where does Garby's story go? Not saying it needs to be linked with Kendall, but more of like
No, I
like
get it.
what does this look like? So I felt sad for her, and she seemed so down, you know. So I felt, yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for her. I want to see what goes from here, but I'm worried because I'm
Mm,
like, I don't know if her likability with Justine, with all these other people there, if she's going to be making it past a vote, you know?
yeah, I know. I'm worried for her too because I agree. I think she's smart. I think she is a kind person and a compassionate person who is unfortunately a victim of the current position we're in the U.S. And so as a result, there's so much negativity about her online. I even saw a few comments of people claiming that she intentionally threw the medicine ball at Nicola's head, which is a wild thing to
What?
say. And so I was very happy that Ariana made sure to say it was an accident. It was unintentional on camera. But even despite saying that, yeah, there were people saying that she did it on purpose. There are still people who are upset with her for what did she even do? They something else that she might have said to like Nicola or whatever. But I agree. I worry about her ability to survive a vote. But I think she's played an amazing game. I think she made Kendall better as a competitor. I think
Yeah,
she was a great supporter for him. And she seems like a great person. And it's unfortunate that now her partner is Casey,
yeah,
who doesn't seem like he was going to try all that hard during the challenges. Hopefully, I'm wrong, and hopefully, we'll get some fire from him. But I worry about that. And I noticed she fell a lot during the sweet spot challenge, and I kept thinking, oh my gosh, she's gonna wake up tomorrow in so much pain. So I feel like it'll be a shame if tomorrow or today tonight or tomorrow there's another duel and Garby has to fight again, I'd be worried about her ability to handle it because she's put her body under like so much in the span of a week, basically.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny you say what you said because I feel like I saw I don't know if it was Lucinda or somebody was walking and it was like obviously they're walking around in bikinis, but then I think both their knees were like bruised after the sweet spot. I was
Mm,
like I was kind of like it's kind of wild to be like oh dang, um, just to see like obviously how how it's affecting everyone's body in general, but it's funny to hear what you say because I'm like definitely on my the the bubble that I'm in, the internet and social media posts that I'm in, it's like people are loving Gabi,
oh.
loving Justine and everything. This is what I'm seeing.
Oh.
But I don't know what other audiences are thinking. So it's interesting to hear what you say. And I'm like, oh, people thought it was intentional. I'm just like, that's like even when Ariana said that, I was like, did anyone think it was intentional? Like I just genuinely like that's like not I mean, I think I can assume the other parts of the internet that might think that but I just don't know how strong those parts of the
Yeah.
internet exist. So it's interesting to hear you share that. But I think that, and it's I do want to say like it's just so funny because I have a lot of moments where I forget that Garby isn't like from the US just because of like her accent. But even when she just casually did the "We did it, Joe" with Kendall,
Okay, she said that the captions changed it to "We did it, y'all," but she did say "We did it, Joe."
yeah, yeah, yeah. We no, she said because I was like, she did not say we did it, y'all. We winded it. I was like, we did it, Joe. I was like, I knew it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you cannot tell me that. Like, I was like, I feel like she's pretty in, just the general like, culture.
Zeitgeist.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, literally. So I thought that was funny. But. I think she's great. I think she is the person I'm most hoping from the like her and Justina, the people I'm most hoping on the women's side to win.
Yeah.
But it's obviously who they're paired with.
Speaking of that, I thought that Justine's conversation with Josh the day after he found out that Andrea allowed him to, go out into the duel, was interesting because Justine and Josh's, sorry, yeah, I noticed that Justine and Josh's chemistry was off during the challenge. And then when she came up to him, she said, "Oh, I can read Josh like a book. How are you feeling?" And I just thought that conversation was interesting because I mean, you might be right. You might be right that it's just that Justine is just there at these times, and producers are telling her like, "Hey, go up to this person and talk to them." But I thought it was interesting that she was checking in on him because they didn't show Andrea really doing that. Instead, Andrea was saying, "Oh, it's just a shame because I'm so happy." And I'm so happy to be a winner. And it's just such a shame that, you might go home or I just want to be happy. And like that's been like Andrea's through line. Except
Yeah,
it's all so I thought it was I didn't know if that yeah, it could have just been she's there, but I didn't know if that was intentional to show like Justine showing care and concern for Josh. Well, Andrea's kind of just like, well, I mean, if you leave, I'm screwed, but I just want to be happy.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like Justine knows how to work people. That Justine knows how to keep these relationships. I don't think everyone thinks about themselves and not thinking about the bigger
Mm-hmm.
picture. And I think those people who naturally, Kendall being one of those, maybe Isaiah a tiny bit of like naturally or in with people, feel connected to people, people trust. But Justine, who is good at doing that, knows to intentionally do that. She knows
Mm-hmm.
to probably like build out. Even that might have been part of the reason to do Nicola. Like if there's a will Nicola stays, like Nicola feels like you helped me kind of thing, but also she
Mm-hmm.
probably has a tighter bond with Gabi. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like either way, it's like he'll cover my basis that I'm not disappointed when one of them leaves. Um,
Mm-hmm.
no, I will be disappointed, but I'm still like covered,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting that like I think there's just a strategy background, honestly, that they're coming in with. But I mean I think we kind of talked about him a little bit, but I think last person being Kendall, like I think
All right. Yeah.
um Kendall, he won the duel against Marvin. I think he did a great job. I think he was definitely the underdog in that. I think he was the underdog going the second duel, and
Yeah.
I thought he came close. I think he did a poor his first round was bad strategy, I think, in my head. And the second round he did a good. And I think he had it was like who had it on the side the most. I think Kendall won that. But it was like who at the end of 45 seconds. And
Yeah.
I was impressed by how he showed out. And I was sad. Yeah, I was sad that he
Yeah.
left. He's not like my favorite person, but I think he's a
Mm-hmm.
character and brought a lot of energy. And I think in the hyper competitive nature that a lot of the men were bringing, he was bringing some levity, even though he was in like a vulnerable situation twice in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sad because I did feel like from a like from a strategic standpoint, he was the biggest op to Johnny.
Hmm.
Um, physicality is more Josh probably for like, but like for strategic. So I feel like him being gone is sad. Garby being sad. Of course, I did clock that Lucinda hugged Kendall more than Garby did, and I was like, "What are you doing, man?" And so you cannot, I don't know, you cannot make me like Lucinda. But I am sad to see him go. I'm sad to see him go, and I think that
Yeah,
I hope on the outside that him and Garby like connect a little bit, but I don't know if they
I
will.
don't.
I I I
I
don't
want
know if
better for Garby than
I don't know if
Kendall.
they will. I felt like
They
Garby
have a
was feeling it.
connection, I will
Yeah, they have a
acknowledge.
connection. I'm like hopefully they have space to explore it. I'm not saying I care for Kendall like that, but I feel like Garby was very sad and if she'd
Yeah.
like to, I'd rather her wrap it up quick and know what it is versus like, oh, maybe this is something to think about and slowly, you know what I mean? Like let's get an answer quick and that might be a few days. And but who knows?
I mean, I did catch that, Ariana asked him, did you find love? And he was like, well, I think I found someone special and we'll see. So
Well, and I get that. To be fair, when
I wouldn't,
his
I mean, I don't think he should have said like, yes, maybe I found love, but it was just kind of like,
to be fair,
yeah.
everything with Nicole, and them saying I love you and everything, and how
Oh, I forgot about
I feel
that.
like he was like, let's not call anything love. Let's just like
Yeah.
say I'm into somebody. I feel like I was like, okay, I can see how your past, I don't know if trauma is the right word, but your past experience in Love Island and your past relationship,
Hmm.
how you could be like, let's just say I really like you and I've enjoyed my time, you know? So and I respected him to be you know, like I feel like if Johnny left and was leaving Andreina, I feel like Johnny would be like, I found love, I found X, right?
He
Like
would have
you
been
know what I
like,
mean?
yeah, I did find love. Who knows what will
Yeah.
happen?
Too bad. I like literally, me being gone for 5 hours, things might change. I might find somebody else. So and it'll be your fault because you stayed and I went.
Yeah.
So you know,
Well, I do want to say about Kendall, he's such an interesting character. He frustrates me, but I I felt bad. Well, I felt bad for him when he lost. I didn't tear up, but I felt it in my heart. My heart felt things when he lost. And seeing how crushed he was and how he sort of like fell down, when he lost. And I also felt bad seeing him like trying not to cry.
yeah,
I've talked about it before that we're in like a weird, unfortunate time right now, and I feel like that's part of it. It made me sad that he, I kept saying like, let it flow, it's okay, just like
yeah,
let them out. But he was trying so hard not to cry, and I felt like even the way him and Josh were talking about each other, like, like, oh, he's a hell of a competitor, he's a hell of a guy.
yeah,
I'm like, what is this like Reagan 1980s talk? I'm like, just be Kendall, because I agree with you. I think he's funny, he's fun. I think I agree that he brought some levity, and I'm like, it's okay to just be yourself. And I think he has a journey he needs to go on. That's part of why I'm like, I do not wish this for Garvey, because I think he has a lot of internal work he'll have to go through, and it's not going to be easy because of like who he's surrounded by,
yeah,
and what's going on in our world right now. But I was really struck by that, of like, I was happy he admitted it hurts. I was happy to hear him say like, I feel emotional. I'm like, good, like, be
yeah.
honest. But I just noticed that he was really, and then he started saying like, he started cursing, and he like, oh, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. So I was like, it's okay, Kendall, like, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And I
I
will
think
miss him in the villa. I agree. I think he did bring a presence, and I will miss some levity, and I will miss at least like one man on this show who is funny.
yes, yes, I agree. And I think that it's like a weird like, oh, and I just yeah, I wish he did cry. I wish he did like kind of let it out and he was there and it's kind of like no, it's okay rather than being like I'm so angry, like have it all pent up. Even like him being like you're a great competitor, good challenge. Like it was kind of like okay, that's like it's just sometimes I'm like even for myself I'm like not around a lot of hyper masculine spaces. And so when I see it on this show and the way they talk and get out their
Yeah.
emotions, even like Tyreek and being like I'm upset that you didn't pick me, so let me go other side of the bench and let me make sure to plot a way to get you back. I'm like, okay, my guy, like, what do we do? You need to go to therapy. And
Yeah.
but I did wish Kendall like cried a bit more and had some time, and I
Yeah.
feel like just to feel what he was feeling. But I do appreciate him. I appreciate him as like a character,
Hmm.
as somebody on the season, and I think that he did bring a lot when I didn't really know how he'd fit in with the strategic and the
Hmm.
and that part of it, but I feel like he had the opportunity to it. But I think honestly um having Johnny in the season definitely affected the ability to do much with it, you know?
Yeah.
So which, but either way, I was happy he was here. So
Hmm.
but anyone else?
I don't think so. I think we've got everybody. Who would you like to be your final three couples, and then who do you think will actually be the final three?
Yeah, who I want my final three to be is I think Tyreek Justine
Okay.
because of Justine. I think Andrea and Josh,
Hmm.
and I think Garby and insert man here. You know what I mean? I think that's for
Yeah.
me. But realistically, I do think Johnny and Gabby will be there. I think Tyreek and Justine will be there. Um, and I think Isaiah and Lucinda might be like a sneak.
Hmm.
But I don't know, I don't know. It's just like I think I am I think Toby's the most likable of those three, but I think Justine's gonna like carry Tyreek a bit.
Mm.
So I don't know. That's how I'm thinking. And
Mm.
if Johnny makes it, I would love Johnny to be second place again. Um, you know what I mean? Like I don't think that he. I can look at villains and be like, oh, they played an amazing game. I'm glad that they won and they got the opportunity to like a villain winning is still like an arc that I enjoy seeing. But I don't know, I don't think I think I would enjoy more, like I know this is horrible to say. I think I would enjoy more if like Tyreek somehow found a way and won than Johnny won. Like if I had to choose between the two, not to say not because of Justine, not because of anyone else,
No,
but
Tyreek would be a funny win. It would be a
yeah, like
very
that would be a
funny
funny win,
arc.
but Johnny feels like a little bit too much of um like I can't put my word on it, but there's too much masculine energy of like I'm the best person here and I deserve to win. And I think Tyreek's kind of like hey, I'm sneakier. He thinks he's the best, but he's not saying that outwardly. And he was like, I can get myself there, That feels
Yes.
different. So that's why I kind of like it. If I but we'll see. We honestly don't know. I don't know. But again, I would love if somebody just takes the money. That is like what is my hope still. And I think we're going to a path where that can happen. But we'll see. So
I only want that if one of the, well, actually not all the women, if if it can be Justine, Garby, or Gabby. That's the only way I want. I would love them to take the money. I think okay, so I don't want Lucinda in there at all. But I could see a world where she and Isaiah make it to the end. I think actually Johnny, was it Johnny who said that they're like sneaking under the radar? Someone did say that Isaiah
mhm.
and Lucinda are like going under the radar. I can't remember who, but I could see a world where yeah, that strategy actually does work.
Yeah.
And then I want my conflicted. I want to be conflicted, so I want Josh and Andrea in there, and then I guess oh, that's yeah. So I would want Justine with whoever she's with because I think it would be cool to get to see her like in the final one more time and see like, okay, how does this work out?
Yeah.
I feel like if the personally, I don't think she should have been allowed to come back, but because they let her come back, I want her to be in the final.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be such a letdown if like the reigning champ comes back and doesn't make it. Anyways,
Yeah.
so yeah, those are the people I want. But then I think who it's actually going to be it might be Isaiah and Lucinda, Johnny and Gabby, and then. I guess I'll say Josh and Andrea. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. And yeah, we'll be back to talk about the finale and our hot takes.
Yeah. Looking for. I think there'll be a lot rolling off the tongue for sure.
Yes. Okay, everyone. Well, like and subscribe the video for more. Bye, MC.
See ya.